From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. The Broncos are getting some much-needed reinforcements. Michael Ojemudia, Greg Dulcich, and Justin Simmons have all been designated to return from injured reserve. Also, this week, the Broncos might get Quinn Meinerz back there at right guard. So, again, I know for Broncos fans, a lot of frustrating moments, and especially the injuries have really been intense this year, as it seems like every year. But there is some good news on the horizon, Ben.
Yeah, at least something positive. Getting Justin Simmons back, I think that'll be a plus. The Broncos have some versatility in that secondary. Caden Stearns acquitted himself very well. So, I think that gives you some versatility in that secondary. Greg Dulcich, we don't know what he can be yet. Maybe that's something that's going to help the Broncos be a sure-handed guy that Russ likes, on third down. Maybe that'll help open the field up for the other guys. And of course, getting Michael Ojemudia back, that'd be really nice, too. They're short on corners right now. He's got some experience, and it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do as far as, working into the rotation. Quinn Meinerz, I think that'd be huge if he could be back. He's just more athletic than Graham Glasgow, and he just provides you can do more with him at right guard than you could do with Graham Glasgow out there. So I think it'll be big. We'll see, but at least some positive news going into LA. I think that there's some symmetry. Though, is it 10 years ago, I believe, the Broncos were 2-3 headed to Los Angeles and the season turned around?
Yeah, at halftime, as it turns out. The Broncos were losing big to the Chargers, and at halftime, they changed it all around, and they went on a streak where they didn't lose a game the rest of the season until the postseason. Mm-hmm. So, again,
Ryan Edwards is guaranteeing that's going to happen.
Maybe we're grasping at straws just a little bit, but that is certainly a thing that happened in the first season with Peyton Manning. But on the offensive line for a second, as we continue to talk about how these guys fit in, Quinn Meinerz will obviously go right back to right guard. But Coach Hackett in his press conference this week, non-committal on who the offensive tackles are going to be.
Yeah, I think Calvin's got to work his way out of the doghouse a little. I think he had the opportunity to win the right tackle job in training camp, didn't do that. He kind of fell off into the doghouse a little bit, especially after the Dallas week with Parsons and all that. Cam Fleming, I think he's been pretty good in run blocking, but his pass pro has been suspect. And so, I think they need to evaluate. And to be honest with you, teams have gotten push up the middle. Lloyd Cushenberry, even though he's been the guy who's been healthy, may not be the answer. Maybe you slide Glasgow over. Keep him in the lineup. Maybe you put Quinn Meinerz at the right guard spot, and then maybe you work on Anderson at the left tackle and figure it out at right tackle. I don't know.
Well, he did say he wanted to try to get the best five out there. So that, of course, has led to a lot of speculation on the internet, something that you know nothing about, I'm sure. But a lot of speculation on what does that actually mean and who are the Broncos' best five on the offensive line. Again, if we were just talking about what I think is going to happen, I think it's going to be Calvin Anderson there at left tackle. Mm-hmm. I think they'll probably roll with Cam Fleming there with the understanding that Billy Turner is available, but again, knowing that what we know right now, you bring up all great points. It seems like a lot, though, to all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to have a new left tackle, possibly even a new right tackle, and by the way, a brand new center if you decide to shift things up. That's a lot to shift up. Maybe you can do that because you had a little bit of extra longer week, but I still feel like that's a lot.
We saw how bad the Colts look when they made 3 changes along the offensive line against the Broncos. They finally figured it out late, but that offensive line was dreadful most of that game, still trying to figure it out on the fly. So, I don't know at this point, but I suspect it'll be something that's similar to what we've seen with Calvin probably plugging in at the left tackle.
All right, so now let's go to Justin Simmons. Looks like he's going to be back for this game. He's been chomping at the bit. We've had a few conversations with him, and he's been ready to go. So you bring up Caden Stearns, who's looked really good. How can you find ways to get Caden Stearns on the field more?
Well, you either put him in as the dime backer and give him some linebacker snaps, or you find a way to get Kareem Jackson down in the slot or down as a corner in the low zone type stuff and put Caden and Justin as the 2 high safeties. And
K'Wan Williams has been playing pretty well too as your nickel.
I'm not suggesting that KJ would move ahead of K'Wan. I'm suggesting that he would be the dime corner in a lot of those situations, or maybe CB2 in a nickel package and pulling Damari Mathis off the field.
Does have experience as a cornerback,
right?
Obviously,
and for me, that's a perfect red zone type scenario. You drop KJ down, into the low zone, and you put Caden Stearns, who's a little rangier. And that gives you some options, I think, in the red zone. And you don't have to worry about Kareem maybe necessarily getting beat with long speed, which is, his weakness right now. So, I think there are options. I think this coaching staff, and we've seen Ejiro Evero, certainly a very smart, very talented defensive coordinator. I'm sure that he will make the best use of these guys.
Yeah. By the way, with Damari Mathis, and we'll talk about Michael Ojemudia here, I think he's played pretty well. And listening to the comments of Pat Surtain and how he talked about his study habits have just been vastly improved, and the way he approaches the game like a pro versus, again, and this is why it's always tough for rookies, because you come from where you're going to college part-time, you're a full-time player there in college, right? Especially if you're in a major university, but the study habits of what you have to do as a professional are significantly different. And so much of the cornerback position specifically is about learning tendencies of the receivers you're going against.
Yeah, it is. And we were just talking about a guy in Caden Stearns who, has those study habits. I had an extended conversation with Justin Simmons last year in Minnesota when we were up there for that week, and he talked about how Caden approached playing defense like an offensive person would. Just a different mindset in how he does it. Damari Mathis, a little bit different. Damari's a great athlete. And he's more athlete than football player right now, but he's learning the position. I thought he had some good signs. Played a little soft on Alec Pierce, and that allowed them to move the football a little bit in that Colts game. I'd like to see him tighten that up a little because he's at his best in press man. But I think as he's learning the position, he needs to learn how to do some of those things and learn how to adjust and do some of those kinds of things. So good for him. I don't want Mathis out there as the CB2. I think he's 3 or 4. I think he needs to be the 3 or 4 guy. I'd like Ojemudia to take the job just because of his experience while Mathis grows, but there is some confidence that Mathis at least has the athletic ability to play that position while he's still learning it as a football player.
And you do appreciate Michael Ojemudia's length as far as a cornerback and what he can do as far as matchups, not only with longer wide receivers, but also tight ends as well. So there's definitely some versatility and flexibility you get there. And again, I think that it gives an opportunity. You can have Mathis out there. I think you can rotate those guys a little bit. It gives you some different looks if you want. And their skill set is so different, right? I mean, Michael Ojemudia is such a great zone corner, right? I mean, he does good click and close. He's a good react guy. But then then you have, again, you mentioned with Mathis, one of the best press man corners. I think he's in that conversation with the Broncos as long-term. I love his upside when it comes to that. But again, at the pro level, you need to be able to do both.
Yeah, you've got to be able to do all those kinds of things. And people, I'm going to be honest, we're going to this Chargers game, and you know where Herbert's going to be looking. He's not going to be trying to throw against Pat Surtain. They're going to try to get a situation where they get Mike Williams lined up over there on Damari Mathis, and they're going to try and feed Mike Williams at that point. So you got to be ready, and you got to be ready to step up to that challenge.
All right, final guy here, Greg Dulcich. And again, even listening to Coach Hackett's commentary on him, I know they're very excited about what he could be as a tight end in this offense long term. They brought him along as slowly as you possibly can have. He had an injury dating all the way back to OTAs that I guess there was a re-aggravation maybe during training camp because he had been out there. They've really slow rolled this because I think they have long-term belief in what he's going to be. But if he's back, I'd like to see him get on the field a little bit. I think the Broncos could possibly use a little bit of his athleticism out there, but understanding also the way they've utilized the tight ends in the passing game anyways has been hit and miss at times.
Yeah, they need somebody that's reliable there. Right now, they just don't feel confident with Salbert, Tomlinson, or Alberto, and we've kind of seen that. So maybe Dulcich, a bit more sure-handed. Maybe that gives you somebody that's a more reliable target. I'd like to see him get some reps between the 20s. I know everybody's talking about red zone work, but I'd like to honestly see him in the open field. I think the speed is where he's at his best. You want a pogo stick guy like Alberto in the red zone where he can jump up and out and jump you. So, I'd kind of like to see that. I'd like to see how that plays out. I'm not sitting there penciling Greg Dulcich in for 100-yard games or anything like that anytime soon, but I'd like to see him out there, see what he can do. Yeah,
you'd like to see him get some opportunities. And again, it's going to be intriguing for me as the season wears on for some of the younger guys, specifically guys like Dulcich, when they have a long-term projected view of him. Because whatever Greg Dulcich does this year, I mean, of course, the Broncos would like to win a lot of games. They like to go to postseason. Heck, they'd like to win a Super Bowl. But there still seems a few steps in between that. But you have these young guys. Same thing can we say about Nick Benito. You have these guys where it's like, okay, we have this long view of what their progress is supposed to look like. And so first-year expectations are usually pretty low.
Yeah, and that's the way you want it to be. Grow into the job. But you need it year 2. You need them to be impact players.
Yep, and that's exactly what they're going to be looking for with Greg Dulcich. So, yeah, I mean, again, Broncos going to get a few guys back. That's certainly good news. Of course, they're going to be dealing with some of the losses. And I know for you, the biggest one right now is going to be Ronald Darby.
Yeah, absolutely. Ronald Darby might be the most underrated corner in the NFL. As a CB2, he's a CB1 most places. Does he get the interceptions? No. but he's excellent at being disruptive, getting the hands in there. He tackles well. And when he's healthy, he is absolutely a CB 1.5, in this league. So having him out is really a big blow for the Broncos, and it's an opportunity for one of these young guys to step up and show that, hey, we're here. We don't, you're in good hands.
All right. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.
Denver's going to win! You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.